This is the Fifth Estate winning headlines, your media police post. In this segment, we summarize some of the headlines that you might have missed this morning. But we also take a look at the political pieces that we call cartoons in this country. Today is the 9th of March 2020 and I am 2J.
I'm 2M.
And I am DM. Let's take a look at today's headlines.
Wait guys, do you know what happened 2 years ago today?
What?
The most famous handshake on the planet.
The most famous handshake.
The most famous handshake.
This is 2 years.
2 years since the handshake.
2 years.
And the most remarkable thing is that, first of all, it feels like it was just the other day.
Yes.
But second, it's been 2 years,
Yes.
but not a week has passed. Not a week has passed without it being discussed
Yes.
in the papers, on the news,
Absolutely.
So I
on the winning headlines.
exactly. So I think to Uhuru and Raila we say congratulations
on your anniversary.
No,
to the parties who were left out.
I want to congratulate Raila Odinga for successfully destroying Jubilee from inside.
The Star, Uhuru ICC evidence fabricated, expert.
Yes.
The Standard, isolated.
Yeah.
And finally, the Daily Nation, uproar over plan to impeach Ruto.
Yes.
Let's start with the odd one out.
Yes.
The Star.
The Star.
The Star.
Uhuru ICC evidence fabricated, expert.
Yes.
I think it's a bit of a misleading headline.
Yes.
So what this story tells us is that a forensic linguist, a specialist from the UK, says that at least 30 witness statements against Uhuru Kenyatta were fabricated. So what he did is he looked at 30 of these statements and found that they had a very similar string of words that were used concurrently.
Yes.
And the likelihood of two people
Yes.
saying a
Yes.
statement in the exact same way is very unlikely.
So the statements
witnesses.
were crafted by the same person.
By the same person
perhaps.
and the exact same way.
Yeah.
However, I would want to caution the Star.
Yes.
Because in the article, they talk about the book written by this expert. His name is John Olson. They talk about a book he wrote in 2010 called Word Crime. And they quote chapter 10, saying that is where it came from.
Yeah.
I looked up the book.
Yeah.
Chapter 10 of this book that they quote is called A Case of Medical Disinformation. I don't think that's related to the ICC.
To Uhuru Kenyatta in the ICC.
Yeah, so I would just urge them to, do some spell checking, do some word checking, because the book that they were actually referring to is a 2018 book called More Word Crime, which actually does refer to the case Uhuru Kenyatta and the ICC.
Okay.
But yeah,
That's why we're the media police post.
exactly. We check everything.
But
I want to suggest, guys,
Yeah.
that perhaps this isn't the last ICC headline that we will see. And perhaps we will see a string of ICC headlines that are designed to discredit the ICC.
Yeah.
Remember that William Ruto told us that the chief of the NIS,
the director general.
the director general of the NIS told him
Yeah.
that some people,
Yeah.
could be the system, could be the deep state, could be mercenaries, could be the mafia,
Yeah.
intend to take him to the ICC for purposes of finishing him.
Wow.
So this could be in line with
The beginning,
a
only
narrative.
because the strange thing about this story, knowing that what we know about who owns the Star, I thought that this story would have taken a different turn. But if anything, it actually defends Uhuru and says that the reason that the case was vacated was because there was tampering with the witness statements.
So it defends Uhuru but discredits the ICC, which works for the honors of things.
Yes.
Isolated.
This man is isolated. Let's be honest, and he's cornered.
So it's an apt headline.
Yes, but what they're talking about is events of the weekend. First, William Ruto shows up in Solai, in Nakuru, at the burial of Kipyegon Kenei, and he says that the system is planning on bringing him down. And there's something he said. He said that unless they kill me, I will not retreat. That's the first thing he said. Then yesterday in Meru, he said, I am the Deputy President of the Republic of Kenya, elected. I have no apologies to make to anybody. Now look, all those statements that he made at both events were targeted at Uhuru Kenyatta. But where was Uhuru Kenyatta? Yesterday on Sunday, he was attending his wife's marathon, Beyond Marathon. For the first time, DP Ruto missed the event.
But that was on, so that was on Sunday
as well.
Yes,
that was on Sunday as well. And then after Beyond Zero, they went to Nyayo Stadium, and all the political elite of Kenya, other than William Ruto, attended the Mashemeji derby between
all the partakers of the handshake.
All the partakers of the handshake. And they seem to be enjoying themselves.
Truly isolated.
But here's the thing as well. You see, you don't take a shot at the king and miss, and I think he's missed. And because he has missed, they are going to come for him. What am I saying? There was a man called John Gotti, head of the Gambino family. He was called Teflon Don. And he was called Teflon Don because all the cases and charges they threw at him would not stick. But one stuck. right? And am I saying William Ruto is the head of the Gambino family? No. But will the system at the end get him? I think so.
You know, you say that you don't take a shot at a king and miss. Also, you don't take a shot at a future king and miss.
Yes.
Because when he does become king,
Yeah.
speaking of
Absolutely.
shots,
Yeah.
just after the Kene funeral and the famous speech just mentioned by
Yeah.
2M,
Yeah.
James Orengo,
Yes.
who had promised an impeachment previously, has come back and
Yes.
said that in 2 weeks,
Yeah.
an impeachment
He'll
process
revisit.
will begin.
Yes.
And you know what, guys? I think that this thing is actually very possible.
It is.
That it will happen.
It is.
And Orengo is not beginning now.
Yeah.
You need 3 things for, for an impeachment.
Yeah.
First is creating a background of acceptance, which we've been talking about. We've been
Yeah.
seeing it all the time, so tick that is done.
Right.
The second one is crafting a motion, and the third is marshalling the numbers in
Yes.
the National Assembly and in the Senate. Let's go back to the second one. Crafting a motion.
Yeah.
The opportunity has presented
Presented
itself
itself on a silver platter.
for a motion. With
Yeah.
this arms case, this is the one.
Yes.
And remember, the Constitution tells us that
Yes.
the DP can be impeached
Yes.
if there is reason,
Yes.
serious reason
Reason
to
to
believe
that
that
he's
he has
culpable.
committed a national or international
crime.
crime.
Yes.
It doesn't say that if he has gone into trial and has been found guilty. It doesn't
Yes.
say that if he has been convicted. It's
Yes.
just serious reason to believe.
So the threshold is very low.
Threshold is very low. So in terms of motion, Orengo is going to
Half a
get
tick, yeah.
half a tick. So I guess it's the numbers that we'll be looking at.
Yes, absolutely.
Which headline hit the spot?
Standard.
Obviously, the Standard. Yeah.
No debate about it. The Standard once again gives us the winning headline.
Yes.
And onto the political pieces that we call cartoons in this country. Just like the headlines, we have a 3-part criteria that we use to analyze them. For you, we ask, is the cartoon humorous or is it dry? Is it satirical or pessimistic? And finally, is the cartoon effective or is it just plain lazy?
Iga textbook again.
Comic book
Yeah,
Mondays.
let me describe it. It is a man who I believe is Raila Odinga, caricature of him, and he is sweeping that underneath the carpet. And next to him is a signboard labeled referendum. And underneath the carpet is lack of funds, timelines, all type of that amendment bill. And at the doorstep of this room where Raila is sweeping is Wanjiko, and she is voting. And I think the depiction here is for Wanjiko to go to the referendum, she must pass the dart that Raila is trying to sweep.
She has come to vote for the in the referendum.
She has come to vote in the referendum.
Also notice, guys, you guys really are not giving Iga credit. look at what's emanating from under the carpet.
Is it-
Music.
It's
the
music. No,
There's music, but also he does have a point.
Yeah.
Remember the lack of funds, although you were
Yeah.
refuting that, you said that
Yeah.
when money is needed,
Yeah, it will
will
be found.
materialize.
It will
Yeah.
be found.
But then there's also the matter of timelines and
Yes.
the amendment bill.
Absolutely.
He's working with a few impossibilities here,
Yes.
but he's very adamant, saying nobody can stop reggae.
Yes, but it's also Kudiga, and maybe I'm being too hard on him. Maybe this stuff underneath the carpet is BBI, because look, timelines, lack of funds, amendment bill, and there's some people.
Okay, the standard.
Guys, if anything, I'd want to say maybe this is Iga's smartest cartoon yet.
It
If we were to give him credit,
Yeah,
because
it is quite good.
it's good.
Yes. Here
This
you
one I don't even understand it.
Yeah, but I don't know. It's
Gamzo.
Gamzo. It is Nick Mwendwa, FKF president, and he is staring at the screen in this VAR decision. I am sure if you watch football, you'd be very familiar with it.
Yeah.
And the scorecard there is checking possible red card for non-compliance with directives VAR. Kenya 0, FIFA 0. I don't know. Is there a threat to get Kenya out of FIFA? I don't know.
Yeah, we in the wake of like some drug allegation.
No, there's a
not complying
payment. There's a
with-
payment that's meant to be made to the former Harambee Stars coach,
Yeah.
Adele.
Yeah. Okay.
Yeah.
Okay.
So we were fighting a 1-month extension.
Should that even appear in a cartoon?
No, I don't think so. I think there are more important things to be talking about.
Absolutely.
I will toss that.
Yes. Next is William Ruto, and this is Ozone for the Star, and he is trapped. And what are these? These are it's not a mouse trap, but anyway, next to him is a Bible.
A bear trap.
A bear trap.
Yes.
And next to him is a Bible that he's trying to read,
Yeah.
and the caption there is no
weapon
formed against me shall prosper. But he's putting on a brave face. He's cornered. He's where he can go, and he's reciting Bible verses.
But do you guys think it's important, the way Ozone has drawn this, that the Bible is empty? Right?
So he's reading from a book that's not
Exactly,
really
because
the
we're
Bible.
assuming it's a Bible because we know the kind of church-going fellow he says that he is. But
Yeah. Maybe Ozone just didn't have the time to do the lines. He had to submit the
Do you know what he's saying here? It's what he said on Saturday. He said they may have the system, but we have God.
Yeah.
Now this is
So I think Ozone is agreeing with us, so he's in line with what we were saying.
Yeah.
The weapons that are being formed against him are prospering,
prospering.
because this is a satirical piece. And going back to the impeachment motion that has been promised by Orengo, and we said it has to be really watertight, right, for it to pass the Senate. Remember, it'll go to the Senate.
Yes.
They will form a committee to carry out an investigation and say that it passes water.
Yeah.
So this guy. Orengo is very confident.
Very
in
confident.
what he's planning
Are there
to
things
do.
that they don't know? Those things the DCI promised us would be earth-shattering.
Possibly.
Speaking of the DCI, isn't Kinoti on about to hit a flight?
He has gone to learn how to capture
From the
intel
FBI.
from the FBI.
All right, so between the two cartoons, what do you guys think?
I'll go with Ozone.
Yeah?
I'll go with Iga. Let's
Do you know
give
what?
Iga
I'm
a
going to
bone.
give it to Iga as well. I really am.
You guys have
Honestly?
tested me like that.
The Daily
We
Nation,
need to praise him.
for the first time in a long time,
On a
on a
Monday.
Monday, gives us our winning cartoon.
Right.
So what is our final thought?
And now, our final thought. It is inspired by a book entitled The Ghost Map, A Street, an Epidemic, and the Hidden Power of Urban Networks by a man called Steven Johnson.
Yes. So in light of the corona outbreak that has kind of captivated the world, we thought that we would take a look this week at medical microhistories. And today we're going to start with looking at the cholera outbreak that took place in London in the 1800s.
Yeah.
So I'll just read an excerpt with how the book begins. He says, this is a story with 4 protagonists.
Yeah.
A deadly bacterium, a vast city, and 2 gifted but very different men. One dark week 150 years ago, in the midst of great terror and human suffering, their lives collided on London's Broad Street on the western edge of Soho.
Yeah.
So in the 1850s, London was the largest city in Europe, but it was also one of the filthiest cities in the world. At a time when a majority of the world lived in rural communities, in London, millions of people lived within very few miles of each other, but it was also a city that lacked proper sanitation, a proper sanitation system that could deal with the waste, excrement, and just general trash of the people who lived there. The sewers were often clogged with waste, and they had these people called the night soilmen who made good money cleaning up excrement at night and dumping it on the edge of the city.
What a terrible
What
job.
a job.
Yeah.
So in 1854, a child became violently ill, and her mother threw the baby's dirty diapers into a cesspool in the basement of their home. Soon afterwards, there was a cholera epidemic in the London neighborhood of Soho, and within a few days, a dozen people, or rather dozens of people, became seriously ill with cholera.
Yes.
So the source of her illness was unknown at the time. She had diarrhea that required a constant changing of her diapers. We're really getting into the nitty-gritty details. And the dirty diapers were often soaked in vats of water. And this water was then put into the local cesspool that fed the Broad Street pump. This was a source of clean water that many of the neighborhood relied on for drinking water, but also for cooking. And so this accumulated and is what caused the cholera outbreak that ultimately contaminated the water. So during this epidemic, there was a priest named Henry Whitehood who lived near Soho, and he was very familiar with all the people who lived in the neighborhood. Then you have another important figure who is a young doctor named Jon Snow. Not the Jon Snow of Game of Thrones, a different one. And he'd made a name for himself as an anesthesiologist, but he'd become very interested in cholera outbreaks. So this book describes the investigative work of these 2 men who were determined to find the source of this outbreak. So why it's called the Ghost Map is that a map was created to help make sense of the experience that defied human understanding. It was also a case study on how change happens in human society in a turbulent way in which wrong ideas are sometimes overthrown by better ones. So in this book, Johnson, he's interested not only in how groundbreaking theories are developed, but also in how faulty ideas, because this is what happened here, a faulty idea was persistent and was able to kind of captivate the city council at that time.
And the as you're saying, the city council. At that time, there were 2 dominant theories on how cholera spread. Not just cholera, but any other disease. The first one was called the contagion theory. that there's a type of agent that passes between two victims of a disease. In this case, water.
Yeah.
Then there was the miasma theory, which was very prevalent, and this is what the medical society swore by.
Yes.
It stated that diseases like cholera, chlamydia, even the Black Death
Yes.
were caused by bad odors or bad smells.
Yes.
And the theory extended to other conditions, by the way, like obesity. If you smell a lot of food, you have the potential to get fat. And this theory was so prevalent because of the class bias that existed during Victorian times.
Oh, yeah.
So they had this opinion about poor people.
Yes.
They smelled because they lived in filthy conditions, and so they deserved the diseases that came upon them. Anyway, so back to the two figures that you were talking about. Dr. John Snow started gathering evidence that supported the contagion theory. Remember, the entire medical the society, his peers and his superiors, and even people who worked in the medical board, which is a very prestigious decision maker in London, all believed in the miasma theory. And because they believed in the miasma theory, the responses to cholera were defective. They were problematic in themselves. For instance, they decided to respond by unclogging the sewers and dumping the filth into the River Thames. This only served to spread the disease wider and further and cause the epidemic to spread, to explode. So enter the other protagonist. Henry Whitehead. So Henry Whitehead was a reverend, a priest, or a pastor. So he knew everybody in the community. So he teamed up with Dr. Snow and went house to house. They did such a meticulous job of talking to people, trying to find patient zero, saying, how did you get this? Where do you drink your water? What do you do? Etc. Until they found irrefutable evidence to show that it is actually, cholera was actually waterborne and not gotten through smells. As a result of your poverty. So they caused the General Board of Health to change their approach. But this discovery, so of course they found that it was the patient zero was the little baby who was unwell. Now this investigation marked a milestone, not just in medicine, but in urban planning. Because for the first time, medicine was incorporated into urban planning. So cities planned their sewer system with the assumption that diseases are spread through water and were contagious and carried via water. So the findings of John Snow and Henry Whitehead made the growth of urban population possible. We can actually make that deduction. As you said, people lived in such close proximity, so a disease would come and wipe people off. So because of their findings and the interventions that followed from the government, populations were able to grow.
I think there's a book all governors must read to know how to plan populations.
It's true.
Now,
but also to depend on solid research. Good research.
Absolutely. Now, my takeaway from this book is the use and the role alcohol played during the waterborne disease times. Now, in the agrarian period, in the 1850s, when they could not find clean water, right? Do you know what they replaced it with?
I'm guessing alcohol.
Alcohol, right? And that's because alcohol was the next purest thing after water. Now, he says that dying of liver cirrhosis in your 40s was better than dying of dysentery in your 20s.
And that's just in terms of perception?
That's just in terms of perception.
You'd rather go to...
And you know why? It is because that if you had dysentery in your 20s, you're much more likely to die from it. Right now, if you took booze, then it would kill all the bad stuff that dysentery.
But give you problems in the long term.
It will give you the
which
long.
You're okay with.
But I also think the perception. I mean, in terms of what people would think of you. If you died of dysentery, it meant you're probably poor. You died of poverty.
That's another
right?
Absolutely.
But if you died of alcoholism or the effects of that,
you're well off to.
You're well enough, exactly, to
continually.
Jeez. Now, guys, if you do not know, now you know that most of the world's population today are made up of descendants of early beer drinkers, all right? And we have largely inherited their genetic intolerance of booze. Now, let me explain this. You see, when the agrarian society began, farmers used to drink like hell, like they would drink booze. But then, because booze then used to be very toxic, they would die from it, even before, giving birth to children. Now, a couple of years later, the human body adjusted and it started getting ready and prepared to take huge amounts of alcohol. And this is because there was an enzyme that produced something called alcohol dehydrogenases, right? And they said that this is a trait regulated by a set of genes on chromosome 4 in human DNA. Geez, I sound like a doctor.
Yeah,
But
you sound like a doctor.
I'm a doctary. Now, the gene pool of farmers, after producing this enzyme, this gene, this enzyme thing, the gene pool started getting ready to produce more booze. Now, the reason why we can all take booze, and you say you cannot, but I know you do, the reason why you can withstand so much quantities of booze is because with time the body regulated itself to produce this enzyme, and now that's why we can all produce more booze. So
thanks to outbreaks like cholera
and waterborne disease like dysentery,
we can drink the way we do.
We can drink the way we do, and that is an advertisement for booze, yeah.
It is.
Trust to M to glean that from the book about cholera.
So essentially you're saying that those who drank were not as susceptible to
dysentery, to waterborne diseases as those who did not.
On a day where we learnt about the benefits of booze, the Standard gave us the winning headline and the Daily Nation gave us the winning cartoon. Please remember to subscribe to our YouTube channel. We're also on your TV screens. We're on Star Times, GoTV and Pang free to air. Thank you for joining us and have a good evening. See you tomorrow.